Okay, now that you've got your fabric all taken care of, we are going to first address the inside of our binder. And we're going to be covering the part that is not going to be covered, this area that won't be covered with a pocket. We're going to go ahead and make it a little prettier. So I've taken this piece of decorative paper and I've cut it a little bit smaller than the size of my binder. So you can see I've got a little bit of an edge here and a little bit of an edge here. I'm going to take this piece of paper and I'm going to fold it in half, just like this, put a crease in it, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this out, just like this. You could use a paper trimmer, but everybody has a pair of scissors, and so that's just easier. Okay, with whatever edge isn't the prettiest, I'm going to have that be on the inside, and that's going to be covered by our pocket when we put this in. So I'm going to be taking some double-sided tape that I have here. You could use a tape runner. You could even just use the hot glue. In fact, since you've already got your glue gun out, let's go ahead and we'll just do a little bit of glue on the edges here, just like this. A little in here. I usually just don't like the bumps that glue gives, but let's do this because it's fast and easy. So I'm going to flip this over and line it up with my edge here. And then I'm just going to press it down in place. And now that paper is secured, just like that. And then I'm going to repeat it on the other side here. I'll take this edge that I don't want to be seen, and I will just put some glue here all the way around here, and we'll go like that. Turn it upside down. Watch your fingers because the glue is hot. Again, line it up and press it down in place, just like that. Okay, now that we have our fabric attached to the inside of our binder, it's time to start attaching our fabric to our binder. And we're gonna do that again with the glue gun. We're gonna start on the long edges. And so I'm gonna be putting a bead of glue. I'll start in the center here. I'll put a bead of glue, and then I'm gonna fold that over the edge and press it in place. And I'm gonna continue doing this all the way along the edge here. I'll just put a bead of glue here and go all the way down just to the edge of the binder. Again, folding it in place, like that, and securing it. Just like this. Again, watch your fingers. The glue's really hot. And now I'll flip it over and we'll work on this long edge here. Okay, once your transfers are all in place, it's time to go ahead and cover this with the iron-on vinyl. And again, I'm using the heat bond, and this happens to be in the gloss finish, and I used matte on the others. So the heat bond comes out in a roll, also with a grid. I've already cut this for my binder, and you can see when I place it on here, then I'm leaving just enough to fold over the edges. We're gonna do the outside first. So I've left a little bit up here, a little down here, a little over here. I wanna be able to fold this over. And then I've cut separate pieces for each of the pockets. But the first thing we're gonna do is iron this on to the outside of our binder. So I'm gonna flip the binder over. This gets a little bit tricky. So this is something that you want to maybe practice a little bit with. It took me a little bit of getting used to. So I'm gonna peel back this paper here, and this is my sticky side. So this is the side that's actually going to be face down on my fabric. I'm gonna go ahead and tuck this end over so it doesn't roll back on me. I'm just gonna fold this over down here, tuck it. And then while I go ahead and peel this off over here, and this is what I'm doing, I'm just gonna kind of peel this back a little bit from this paper. And then I'm gonna try to push it gets a little awkward, so I'm gonna try to push my paper down underneath so that I can put my vinyl in place. And so I'm just going to press that down, in place. It's not going, the iron is what makes it adhere. So it's not gonna be super sticky, but you can hold it in place. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and flip it and pull my paper back and run my hands along it as I apply it to the entire piece. So again, it's a little bit awkward, but you can get the hang of it. And then I just want to make sure that I've got enough. I can kind of reposition it a little bit if I need to. I want to make sure that I've got enough to fold over my edges so I can lift it up, and once I've got it in place, and then just press it down a little bit. Okay, now the other tricky part is that you don't want your iron to hit the vinyl. So you're going to take this sheet that you've just done, that you've just peeled back, and you're going to use that with the grid side up so that this little shiny bit here is on the bottom. And you're going to kind of press this in place, and then take your hot iron with dry, no steam at all. And you're going to iron this vinyl in place, just going over it. You're not going to go over the edges just yet. You're going to push this in place, iron over so that it gets good contact. And I like to kind of work in one section at a time if possible. I have gotten bubbles in this before, but they seem to be easy to iron out if I need to. So I'm just pressing my iron here, and then I'm going to go over this side. I hear a little bit of crackling, but it's not too bad. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm sure I'm going to find out when I lift this paper. So I'm going over this edge here, kind of moving my iron as I go. Again, I've got some exposed vinyl here, so I want to be careful not to touch that with my iron. I'll move my paper to do that. So once I've got that, I'm going to lift up my paper. A few little bubbles, but it's not too bad. I'm going to move my paper down so that I can get this area down here. And I'm going to just iron over again. Kind of going, you can feel the edge of your binder. And you're going to do that, okay? And now I think I've gotten a good adhesion, but we'll go back over it again. But for now, so I've got this whole piece covered, I'm going to flip this over. And now this is where I'm going to, I actually want it to fold over a little bit. And this is where it gets just a little bit trickier, I guess. So again, I'm going to take my paper. You could cut this paper down if you needed to at this point, but I'm just going to take my paper here, and I'm going over that seam that I've folded over, and I'm going to press that in place. work on my long edges first. And I'm going to have to go back over it again, I know. And then I'm going to push this center part down. Kind of fold this over too. And push this center part down. And you might have to work just in small sections. Again, be really careful not to touch your vinyl with your hot iron. And then go from there. And so I'm going to, let's see, I've got this going here. Keep going. Sorry, I thought my family was coming down and I was going to pause this, but I think we're okay. And now I'm going to do from here, and I'm going to keep going until I got this edge here completely done. You really want to just kind of get it adhered, and then I will show you how to fix any, like, areas that were a little bit off. So now I'm going to work on this side. I don't have as much to fold over here. It shifted a little bit when I was ironing it on. But that's okay. I'm going to start here and then we'll work with that and let that go. So I'm going to try to get this in place. I guess you could use a little painter's tape or something like that to hold it in place if you needed to. And then I'm going to take my paper again and I'm going to iron this in place, working fairly quickly. I'm ironing this in place. So I would say that of all of the steps in the project, this is the trickiest, but it's also what protects this from any spills or anything like that. So we're going to kind of come here and go there. And then I'm going to finish this. I'll show you how to do the pocket side, and then I'll stop and finish this, and then we'll go to the next part with the pockets. So on this one, I'm going to fold this piece over just like this. I'm going to lay my paper down just like this and iron this in place. It's pretty quick. Going over that seam is a little difficult, that bump where we've made our pocket. Here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to show you how we address things like this, like where I have this overlap right here. So I'll be right back after I finish just getting the outside done. All right. Okay, now we have the front of our binder covered with the vinyl. And so we're working on the interior right now, and I'm going to cover this pocket right here. You can see where I have some overlap of the vinyl here, and I've cut a piece to fit this, and so it's much smaller to work with, and so it's easier to peel, and I can just kind of peel back the entire sheet actually and hold on to that. And then I can kind of lay this in place. The best place to start in lining it up is on the edge of your pocket to make sure that everything's going to be covered, but it doesn't overlap. If it overlaps, you could end up sealing your pocket with your vinyl, and you don't want to do that. So I've got this kind of in place, and I'm going to push it smooth, trying to get out any of the wrinkles or air bubbles that I can. And then I'm going to take some of my grid paper, again, face down with the grid side up, and then I'm going to take my hot iron and I'm going to iron this in place. Going over the seams, pressing in place. You've got some vinyl over here that's exposed on your edge, so you want to be careful not to hit that. All that it will really do if you do hit it is it's going to kind of burn a hole in your vinyl, and not the best thing to do. So you want to just kind of iron that in place. Again, making sure you're not using the steam. You just want a dry iron for this part. And you're going to go over your pocket. Press this in place. And now you peel it back and it's sealed. Yes, there is overlapping of the vinyl, but it's almost like magic, because unless you're looking for it, you can't see where the the overlap is and where the new vinyl hits it. So that's a beautiful thing that I do like about it. Let's talk about areas like this that can happen where you've got a little bit of an overlapped edge here. What I've figured out is that I can take this and push it down a little bit, place my paper on top. I'm going to go lengthwise because my iron's kind of wide. Just kind of fold it over like this, and then take your iron and press that in place. Just kind of going over those edges. And there's something about it, it just kind of sticks to itself and takes care of that edge for you. And so now it's no longer sticking out. Okay, now that our binder is completely covered in the iron-on vinyl, we're ready for the next step. I just wanted to add a little bit of embellishment with ribbon and a closure so that I could tie this off if it gets a little thick. So I'm going to be using this printed ribbon. This is about 24 inches of ribbon, and I'm going to be folding this in half basically, and I'm going to cut it in 2 equal lengths. So about 12 inches each length. I'm just going to take my scissors and cut this in half. We'll worry about the tails later. And then I'm also going to be taking these little metal, they're kind of like a belt loop, but they're just a little ribbon embellishment, or a fastener, I guess. And they're just metal like this. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to kind of pinch my ribbon here because it's a little wider than the opening for this. And I'm going to thread it through like this. And I'm going to kind of twist it so that once it's in place, I'll be able to twist it a little bit better, but it's going to look something like this. And then I'm going to thread it through this other end here. And again, don't worry about the tails. You can fix that when you get there. So you're going to thread this through like this, and then you're going to kind of position your ribbon however you think it's going to look right. And so when you've threaded it through, you're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. I'm going to pull this tail a little bit shorter just so that it can attach here. And then I'm going to take a little bead of glue and run it on this little tail here. And then I'm going to fold this back down into my ribbon so it's kind of hidden, but it's attached and secure. Okay. My ribbon is a little bit upside down, but I'm not going to worry about that either. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this embellishment and I'm going to decide where I want this to be. Do I want it on the edge, or do I want it a little bit more into this? But I think I'm going to go ahead and put it on the edge, and you can measure if you want. If you're a measurer, you just kind of take your ruler and decide where the middle is, but I'm going to eyeball this. And so I'm going to come in right about here, I guess. And then I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on the back here. It's probably going to leak out a little bit, but I think I'm going to be okay. Then I'm going to position it and I'm going to press it in place. Okay, I think it's a little off center, but that's okay. And then I'm going to turn this over, and using my ribbon as a guide of where to place the other one, I'm going to do the same thing with the remaining 12-inch link of ribbon that I have, threading it through. Just like this. Now, you could fasten the ribbon with the hot glue and place a button over it. You don't have to have, these little metal fasteners at all. It's something that I have in my stash, and I thought it would be pretty to use. So I'm going to try to get the print of this ribbon to come through. So I'm going to work with my ribbon. This gets a little, because again, it's not the same width. I won't worry about it. it's on the back especially, so it's not so bad. And so then again, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna kind of pull this through. It's best if you can get it to be about the length of your fastener so it doesn't interfere with your ribbon. So about like that, about to the edge of the fastener. And then again, I'm going to apply some glue in here. And then I'm gonna fold this ribbon over and kind of position it in place, just like that. Okay, I've got a little, just burnt my hands. I'm gonna pick up that hot glue, ouch. And then using my other ribbon as a guide, I'm going to then do the same thing here. Put some glue here. And then I'm gonna turn this over and I'm gonna position this in place. Again, using the ribbon that you've already attached as your guide. I'm gonna press that down. You can pick up any like glue strings that you have. And now you have the ties that are in place with the, you know, with the ribbon and the little fasteners. And it just adds a nice little touch to it. So the next one that we're going to do is we're going to apply this label. And so this is just a little metal file label. And I'm going to attach the brads to this. I'm going to, just so that it gives it a little bit of finish, I'm going to fill in those holes with the brads. And I'm going to position them in a way that I can actually, oops, okay, that fell through. So I'm going to go like this, turn it, and I'm just going, they're bendable. So that's not too bad, okay? And I'm gonna put a little bead of glue so that those little tails stay in place. Just a small one, just so they stay in place. I'm not gonna touch that because I don't want it to burn my fingers. Well, okay, I lied, I did touch it. So just be careful, it's hot, hot, hot. Okay, but I want them to stay in place so that they don't shift and move around. Okay, and so I'm gonna put my brads in place like this and then do the other. And again, it's an optional step. You could use, you know, a label. I just like these little metal labels. I like the metal embellishments. I think it just adds a nice little touch to the binder, a little vintage touch. So again, I'm pushing this in, folding down my little legs on this like this. And then I can bend them a little bit so that they're hidden. And then I'll secure them in place with a little bit of glue. I got a little bit of excess glue here, so I'm kind of tearing that off, but they're still in place. All right, so I'm just gonna put a dot of glue here and just kind of push that down. And I probably only have to do the one side because it's not going to move. It's going to keep the other one secure. So you're just going to secure that. And then we will fasten this to our spine. But what I like to do first is to go ahead and cut out my little piece of paper. And so I don't have that handy. So I'm going to grab that and then I'll be right back. Okay, we are almost done with our project. I believe the final step, I reserve the right to take that back if I forgot something when this is done, but we're going to be making our tab dividers for our binder. And so to do that, I'm going to be using my very well-loved Kindest Regard stamp. It's one of the most versatile stamps. I use it for backgrounds. I don't know, I love it. It's just got so many great purposes, and it adds just a nice element. And I'm going to be using some chipboard, and so it's really sturdy. And so what I'm going to be doing is stamping my chipboard with my stone gray ink. And so this is another well-loved product, so I use this a lot. But this is my stone gray ink, and I've got my stamp laid out here. You can see I did some in blue, and I may not have washed it off as good as I should have, but we're just going to go for it. And I like to turn my pad upside down, and when I'm working with a large stamp, I like to have the raised part of the stamp that's going to give you, the part of the stamp that's going to give you the image, I like to have that facing up, and then I just press my ink pad over the top of the stamp, like this. So it's a little bit of pounding. You want to overlap the edges that you've gone over so you're not missing a spot. And I do the whole stamp because that gives me some flexibility for where I position my stamp. Okay, once that's inked, I'm going to hold my stamp here, and I'm going to put my chipboard right here in place, and I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to just randomly, because it's just a script, but I don't want letters really hanging too far off, so I'm going to position my stamp on my chipboard. I'm going to set it down, and an important thing is you'll notice that I have a protective backing over my desk, so that's really important so that you're not getting ink on a surface that you don't want ink on. And so I like to get these clear, I think they're clear cutting boards, or like a protective mat or something, but just anything to protect your surface. Your thin mount would work great, and you can wipe that off. I'm being careful not to shift, and I'm just pressing my hands over the entire area that I want stamped. And then I have this paper here. Okay, I'm going to do one more because it's important for me to show you how to line up the tabs. So I'm going to take another piece of paper, and we're going to go ahead and repeat the same step again. And I like to go ahead and re-ink my stamp. So again, I apply the ink with the pad upside down. And you want to store your ink pads upside down as well, because it keeps the ink at the top where you want it when you apply it, so it keeps the top of your ink pad moist and juicy. Okay, so I think I got that. And then again, I'm going to just repeat that process by taking my sheet of paper and then taking my stamp, and I might come over here a little bit, setting it down, careful not to shift. Not sure if I shifted when I placed that down, I'm not sure, but anyway, holding it down with one hand and pressing it with the other. And now we have this, okay? And so these are the beginnings of my dividers, just like this. So to create these little tabs, this is what I'm going to use to label. And again, I'll use the clear Avery labels, but this is just a little punch. It's by Paper Shapers, and it is a tag punch, just like this. So I think I got this one from Stampin' Up, but I'll look and see if Fiskars has one, or if there's a way for you to order. But I got this by Stampin' Up, and it is just a tab. And so basically what I would do is the sheet of paper that I cut my label out of, I would just reuse that, and I would just take my punch, and it's a little tough, but I'm going to pop that out, and then I've got the punch. So it's as easy as that. And then what you want to do is you want to fold this right here in these little grooves right here. You just kind of want to put your thumbs there, and you want to just kind of fold this in half, just like this. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you basically want to do that, and you can score it with your pencil tip or your ruler or something like that, but you just want to get it really good. right in there. Okay, so I'm gonna set that aside because I did forget something. The other thing that I like to do is I like to distress the edges of my tabs. And the way I do this is I hold my pad like this and I just run the ink over the tops, just along the edges. And so it gives it a little bit of distress, which I really love. Again, this is completely optional. Everything that we've done is optional. You can choose your transfers, you know, what transfers you like, whether or not you use metal embellishments, whether or not you tie it off and use ribbon. So, but now you can see the difference. It just gives it a little something extra. So I really do like the distressed edge. So now my next step is I'm gonna put a little bit of glue right in here along this edge here, just on one side and then on the other. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my edge here and I'm going to take these little short sides right here on this tab and I'm going to line it up with the edge of my paper here, and then I'm going to press this in place. Okay, and now what I have is this little tab right here. And so again, I will use the clear Avery labels or my own handwriting to label the tabs, but it just gives you a nice little divider. And then the next thing I would do is I would take a 3-hole punch. That's one supply that I didn't tell you about when we were getting started. And I just punch that and then it'll fit right in my binder like that. So I like to ink my paper before I do my tab. I tried it both ways and it was harder to line up. I didn't have as much flexibility. And so I like to just go ahead and stamp my paper and then add my tab and hole punch, and then you're good to go. And I think I just stamped my arm. I did. Isn't that nice? Because I am not cleaning that. So just like a little hazard of what can happen. So the next thing, I'm not going to do all 8. I think this does about 8. This sheet with this tab will do about 8. If you want, you can stagger them or you can line them up. I'm going to show you how to line the next one up. So I already have a tab here. And again, I'm just going to kind of use my fingers in that center area and I'm going to try to fold this in half as best as possible, pushing that in place and using my pencil to kind of score it here, just like this. And I'm getting a little, it's kind of giving it its own distressing because the finish on the pencil is wearing off. And so then I'm going to put a little bit of glue here again. You could use double-sided tape. You could use Elmer's glue. I just have the heat gun already, you know, the glue gun already ready, so I'm just using that. So when you do this, you want to take your 2 tabs here. Let's see how I can do this in a way that makes sense. All right, this has like kind of a U shape if you position them. And so you want to position it just like you did the other, but kind of close to the other. So you're getting this U right here and then push it in place just like that. So you've got the second piece right below this first one and you're kind of lining it up and you want that U shape right here. Can you see that? Just like that. And then you've got your tabs. And so you would then, again, the next step is just to go ahead and 3-hole punch this. And then you have, we'll pull our binder together right here and we'll open that up. And I'll put this one in back because it goes in back. And then they go just like this. And then you close it. So you've got your tabs. You can make as many or, you know, as many as 8 if you keep the U. You don't have to. You could overlap them if you need more. But I kind of like this. And so I did it like this. And then the last thing is that I would tie this off kind of this way. And I'll just show you. I'll just kind of twist my ribbon here. I could do my ribbon differently. And you just kind of want to tie a little bow, and you can fluff your ribbon and make the, you know, I don't know. This is just supposed to be functional, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then there's plenty here, so you can cut some off and give tails, or you could do a tuxedo tail by folding this and cutting like a little triangle here, but I like it like that. And then there you have it. And so we have our binder that's done. And so it was an ugly old binder, and now I think it's beautiful. And when I reach for it to do work, it's going to be a whole lot more pleasant. So that's it. That's it. And so the next thing that I'm going to do is just come back and show you a few others, and then we're going to close the video. If you have any questions, let me know. But I'll be back in just a minute to show you the other binders that I've done, and also a book that I've started to cover. All right, thanks so much.